Marine mechanics do not tell buyers to walk away because they enjoy delivering bad news. They say it because they have already seen the inside of the hull the buyer is about to sign a check for, and what is in there does not match what is on the listing. A boat sitting on a brokerage dock right now with low hours, a fresh detail, and a price that looks like a genuine opportunity can have a stringer system with moisture already working through the wood core, an electrical harness corroded to the point of intermittent failure, and a lower unit full of milky gear oil that tells a mechanic in 30 seconds what the seller never disclosed. The difference between a buyer who gets that information before the transaction closes and one who gets it after is not a professional marine survey. It is knowing what a mechanic is actually looking at when they tell you to keep walking, and why they say it as often as they do. The standard walk-around inspection most buyers perform before making an offer covers everything a motivated seller would want you to see. Clean gel coat, working electronics, engines that start on the key. None of those things tell a mechanic anything meaningful about whether the boat is actually sound. The structural integrity of a fiberglass hull is almost entirely hidden from surface inspection. The stringer system, the internal backbone structure that carries the entire load of the deck, the engine, and offshore wave impacts down into the hull laminate, is encapsulated behind fiberglass and liner panels. The transom core, where the outboard engine is through-bolted and where it resists torque with every acceleration, is sealed inside laminate. The wiring that keeps bilge pumps, navigation systems, and ignition circuits alive in a saltwater environment runs through spaces no buyer accesses on a casual walk-around. A mechanic's first move is to go where the seller did not stage the boat: the bilge, the inspection ports, the lower unit drain plug. The area behind the console where wiring runs terminate into connectors nobody cleans. Those locations tell the story that the listing photographs were specifically composed to avoid. The first is Milky gear oil. Draining the lower unit oil and examining what comes out is a 30-second diagnostic that costs nothing. Gear oil that comes out milky or gray-white means water has entered the lower unit through a failed propeller shaft seal or a hairline crack in the lower unit casing. Water in the gear oil destroys precision-machined forward and reverse gears, and the bearings they run on. A replacement lower unit on a mid-size outboard runs over $1,000 in parts alone, before labor. When a mechanic drains the lower unit on a pre-purchase inspection and finds milky oil, the conversation changes immediately. The seller either knew and did not disclose it, or did not know because they never serviced it. Neither answer is acceptable. Mechanics walk. The second is elevated moisture in the transom or stringers. A calibrated moisture meter placed against the fiberglass surface over the transom and stringer system gives a reading that tells a mechanic what is happening inside material they cannot physically see. Readings above 12% are elevated and require investigation. Above 15% means active water intrusion is occurring inside the laminate right now. A wood core transom or stringer system at 15% moisture is already in the early stages of structural failure. The wood is softening, beginning to delaminate from the surrounding fiberglass, and silently transferring the engine's torque load to laminate that was never designed to carry it alone. The repair is not a line item. It is a haul out, grind down, and full structural rebuild that frequently costs more than the discount the buyer thought they were getting. The third is green oxidation on electrical connectors. Marine-grade wiring in a saltwater environment requires tinned copper wire terminated with sealed, marine-rated connectors at every junction point. Tinned wire resists the corrosion that plain stranded copper wire accumulates when salt air reaches bare metal. When a mechanic opens the console, pulls the bilge access panel, or traces a wiring harness and finds green oxidation at connector points, that is not cosmetic. That is a resistance increase in the circuit that produces voltage drop, intermittent failures, and in the case of bilge pump and blower wiring, a silent safety hazard. The bilge pump float switch is the only automatic defense a boat has against water accumulation at the dock. A corroded connection to that switch means the bilge fills while the owner has no idea. Mechanics who find green oxidation throughout a wiring system budget a full rewire before they recommend the purchase, and they tell the buyer that up front. The fourth red flag is missing or consumed anodes. Anodes, the sacrificial zinc or aluminum components attached to the hull, the transom bracket, and the drive unit, are engineered to corrode first and to protect the more valuable metal structures around them through cathodic protection. An anode that is more than 50% consumed means the protection system has been running without maintenance. An anode that is gone entirely means the protection stopped and the metal it was connected to has been corroding unprotected for an unknown period of time. Mechanics who find depleted anodes on a used boat know immediately that every other maintenance interval on that boat was treated with the same disregard. They treat it as a proxy for the complete maintenance history and an accurate one. The used boat market that exists right now was largely built during one of the most disrupted production periods in recreational boating history. Between 2021 and 2023, mid-tier manufacturers raised production targets between 30 and 45% to meet pandemic-era demand. Plants hired workers with no boat-building background, compressed training timelines, and shipped product on schedules driven by dealer order pressure rather than quality verification. Brunswick Corporation saw revenue decline $1.16 billion in 2024 compared to 2023, and permanently laid off nearly 300 Mercury Marine workers in June of 2024, then furloughed another 1,700 hourly employees through year-end. Bass Pro's White River Marine Group cut 176 workers across 3 plants in the same period. These companies overbuilt for a market that evaporated, and the inventory produced during that surge is what the used market is full of right now. The boats built during that window look identical to boats built under normal conditions. The gel coat is the same, the hardware looks the same, the electronics work on the day of delivery. The differences are hidden inside the laminate, behind liner panels, at stringer connection points, and in the bilge where nobody looks on a standard walkaround. Mechanics who have worked on enough of these hulls know where to look. The buyers who hired them before writing a check did not inherit those problems. The buyers who skipped the inspection did. Run a moisture meter across the full hull bottom and transom before any other evaluation. Anything above 12% in the fiberglass laminate requires a certified marine surveyor before an offer is made. Drain the lower unit oil and examine the color before anything else. Milky gear oil ends the conversation until the seller has rebuilt the lower unit and documented the repair. Open every bilge access hatch and look for rust staining, construction debris, and where drain lines from compartments actually terminate, not where the seller says they go. Check every anode on the hull and transom bracket. If any anode is more than 50% consumed, treat it as a proxy for total maintenance neglect and inspect accordingly. Pull the engine cowling and look at the wiring harness for green oxidation at connector points. Ask specifically whether the boat was dry stored on a lift or kept in a wet slip, and for how many years of its life. Get a compression test on every engine regardless of what the hour meter reads. Budget for impeller replacement on any outboard with unknown service history. The mechanics who say don't buy that boat are not being conservative. They are reading information physically present inside the hull the buyer is standing on. Every finding has a documented repair cost attached to it, and the total of those costs is what the boat actually costs, not what the listing says. The buyers who get that number before they sign, negotiate a fair price, or find a better boat. The buyers who find out after call the mechanic 6 months later when they are already too deep to walk away. Saltwater does not care about the listing description, the hour meter reading, or whether the gel coat was freshly buffed before the photos were taken. It has been working on that hull from the moment it entered the water. A mechanic reads that work. Every serious buyer needs to let them.